NCR Corporation is a leader in omnichannel solutions, turning everyday interactions with businesses into exceptional experiences. With its software, hardware, and portfolio of services, NCR enables nearly 700 million transactions daily across financial, retail, hospitality, travel, telecom, and technology industries. NCR solutions run the everyday transactions that make your life easier. NCR is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, with about 30,000 employees and does business in 180 countries.
Good morning. Is everybody excited this morning? Yes, you should be. It's a very important day. So by all accounts, today, I should not be standing here in front of all of you sharing my story. So you see, I came from a family that mostly did not go to college. Growing up, I did not know a lot of people who went to college. My immediate family didn't go to college. My extended family, very few people went to college. Excuse me, only my uncle on my mother's side went to college, became a chemical engineer. Only one person on my father's side went to college, became a medical doctor. Most of the women in my family married or had their kids at a very young age, like in their teens. My grandparents on my father's side passed away when I was only a toddler. I was very young, so I did not know them very well. On my maternal side, my grandmother married and had her children when she was a teenager. To give you an example, my mother married when she was 15. She had my sister when she was 16. She had 4 kids by the time she was 22. And then, when she was 29, surprise, comes my baby sister. My grandmother was a single mother of 5. So was my mother. Unfortunately, the fathers in my family did not often stick around. When my parents were divorced in Mexico, my mother decided to bring us to the United States. My father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic, very violent, very abusive physically and verbally. So my mom decided to come to the United States. My mother was born in Texas, and she went to Mexico when she was a little girl. So she decided to come to the United States to flee that abuse and to protect her children. My mother, because she didn't know English, also worked at a place called Maquiladora. A maquiladora is a place where a lot of women work for very low wages alongside the US-Mexico border. My mom used to sew the pockets in the back of Levi's jeans, and she used to get paid by the pocket. Because she didn't make a lot of money, we grew up around public housing. We were fed off of food stamps, government cheese, bought our clothes at secondhand stores and garage sales. That was my life. Right around that time also, my family and I were in a car accident. Unfortunately, a drunk driver T-boned our car going at 55 miles per hour. Unfortunately, during that accident, my mother broke her neck. She survived, but she couldn't work, and she couldn't take care of us. And that's about the time that my brothers and sisters decided that we needed to do something to help out the family. Has anybody ever seen or worked in a strawberry field? A few hands? I love strawberries, but this is kind of what it looks like. And see that dirt road down the middle? Well, when I was about 13, a little younger or maybe about your age, I would go to the strawberry fields and I would pick strawberries. And the way that I would do that is I would actually get down on my knees like this and sort of walk down that dirt road with my hands extended, picking strawberries. It was knee breaking, and it was also neck breaking because I used to have this bucket around my neck, and I would deposit the strawberries inside the bucket. I also picked cucumbers. Now that's heartbreaking. Do not recommend cucumbers. Plus, I like strawberries better. And after doing that, I started dreaming about the things that I would like to do one day, not working like I was doing in the fields. I started dreaming about a silly dream. Like, I don't know how many of you go to the high-end stores where there's a perfume lady that comes around, offers you a sample of perfume. Well, when I used to go into those stores, I was poor, of course, so I couldn't buy anything, but I would look. The ladies would actually walk away from me, or they pretended that I wasn't there, and that just made me so upset. I had a dream of one day these ladies would come and spray their perfume on me. And I also had dreams of a home on the beach or travel around the world. Those were all kind of my dreams that I had at the time. So that's when I had my first revelation, which is, it's hard being poor. I didn't like it. And so I had to figure, what's the best way that I can make some money in a fast way? And so that made me start thinking about college. So in thinking about college, when I was in high school, maybe again, a little bit older or about your age, unfortunately, my high school counselor told me, Gabriela, you don't need to go to college. This is my high school counselor. You know, all you need to do is worry about getting married and having kids. Just finish high school. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go to college. Just finish high school. No big deal. You know, at that time, I thought, oh my God, you know, people don't have high expectations of me. Why? Or so I thought. But thankfully, my youth minister at my church saw something in me that nobody saw before. And he said, what are you doing, Gabriela, after high school? What are you planning to do? And I said, I don't know. I have no money. And he said, well, would you like to go to college? And I said, I would love to. I just don't know how. I don't know how. And so he took me to the University of Washington in Seattle, where I met a lady that asked me, what would you like to do? And I said, I don't know. I really didn't. And she said, what about engineering? And I said, engineering? What is that? I've never heard of that word. And she said, well, if you would like to, we have a scholarship for women to go into engineering. And I said, sign me up. Where do I sign? I'm ready to come to college. I don't care what engineering is. I'll mop floors for whatever it is if I can go to college. So at this point, I would like you to join me in visiting a little bit with my 23-year-old self when I was in college. And we're going to watch a short video. So this is me when I was 23 years old.
It was really funny because my mom at first said, you know, life in the United States is much better. You can do a lot more. You can have better things. We didn't have any money. The first day of school, we couldn't buy books or pencils or notebooks. We had to split a notebook into 4 pieces. We had to split pencils into, we had really no money. And my mom went on welfare shortly after we got to Texas.
For 23-year-old Gabriela Gonzalez, the road to obtaining a degree in electrical engineering was paved with hard knocks and disappointments. Her family's new life with her mother, following her parents' divorce, was supposed to be a new beginning. Instead, it almost brought them to a dead end. Although Gabriela had been at the top of her class in Mexico, in Texas she fell to rock bottom. Isolated from other students in the bilingual program, she was forced to repeat the 7th grade.
There was no support whatsoever at the school. Basically, they put you in a classroom, they leave you there until you pass a number of examinations saying that you have reached a level of English that would, you know, qualify you to be in regular classes with the rest of the students. But morally or economically or any other type of support, there was none at that time at the junior high level.
While there may have been little support at her school, Gonzalez's own will and her family's love brought her back to the top of her class. The Gonzalezes had found the living was easier in Bellingham, Washington, where Gabriela was one of a handful of minorities who qualified for honors English. Unfortunately, she would then face her biggest setback yet. Her mother broke her neck in a serious car accident, forcing the family back on welfare.
That summer, I started working in a migrant workers' daycare, and that helped out because compared to them, you know, I saw ourselves as more fortunate. Even though we were, you know, really bad off, they were worse than we were. And I got to work with kids at that time, and I really enjoyed doing that. I also worked in nursing homes, part-time or up to 38 hours a week after school, just to help out with my own expenses and other expenses around the house. So it wasn't so much because I felt I had to. I just felt that it would help out.
Although a college degree seemed out of reach, Gonzalez's hard work finally paid off. With a scholarship, she was able to attend the University of Washington, where she recently graduated. Now Gabriela Gonzalez knows firsthand that nothing can stand in the way of an education. Yet it's a lesson that her mother knew all along.
When somebody doesn't have nothing like us, I say, well, I don't have nothing to give to my children except that, if I can make them go to school and get some good grades and become somebody, it's something that nobody can take away from them.
So that was me when I was 23. It's such an out-of-body experience to watch yourself on a big screen like that. But what I wanted to tell you is after I graduated, I went to work at Xerox in upstate New York. My supervisor, my very first supervisor, the way he greeted me was, "Hey, Gabriela, I just want you to know, I'm not thrilled that you're part of my team. My experience is that Hispanics are lazy and they don't do a lot of work. So I expect you to work." That's how he greeted me. So again, I started to think about what my high school counselor had said and what my first supervisor had said, and I started to think, wow, if people put you down long enough, you almost start to believe it. You start kind of losing faith in yourself. So that's when revelation number 2 came into being. I had to use my self-pride as my best friend. So a couple of things happened is I wanted to set out and prove everyone wrong. Everyone who ever made a bad assumption about me, I wanted to go out and prove them wrong. And that included my counselor and my supervisor back in that time. I wanted to go and prove to them that also I could do well in college. And so math was a real struggle for me. Dr. Badu, where are you when I needed you? Differential equations, integrations, imaginary numbers. Good God, who came up with imaginary numbers? Real numbers are hard enough, right? I struggle with math. It wasn't something that I loved. And so at that time, I also started doubting myself even more. Do I really belong in engineering? Is this really for me? So on a particular day, particular rainy day, which is most days in Seattle, Washington, I happened to be sitting in the engineering library, studying for a math exam, trying to study for a math exam, finding distractions to not study for a math exam. And I looked out the window, and across the yard, I happened to see a man under a tree raking leaves. And he was happy, just raking leaves, humming along, whistling, no worries, relaxed. He seemed happy. And what got me wondering wasn't so much the fact that he was raking the leaves. It was that he seemed happy. And I started to think, I can do that. I can certainly rake leaves. That man looks happy. It doesn't matter that he's raking leaves. He probably doesn't get paid very much, but he's happy. And wouldn't you agree? Happiness is more important than money, right? So I thought, hey, forget this college thing. I don't need math. I don't need to graduate. I'm going to go rake leaves. I'm going to go ask that guy how to get a job. And then I started to think, okay, I've been poor before. It's not that hard. I can manage it. And then I started to think, what would that look like? That would mean going back and waiting in line for my food stamps, probably not being able to see a doctor when my family got sick, not being able to afford a car, let alone the gas and the insurance, buying my clothes at a secondhand store, not fun. Forget that. No perfume lady. That was a no-no. So, Revelation 3. I had to figure out how to overcome my math insecurities. And so, I hunkered down, and I started to think about math in a different way. I started to think about math like the gym for my brain, just like we go to the gym for our bodies. It's a tool. I just need to know how to use it. I don't have to love it, but I have to know how to use it. So the point of all these revelations is that what's really worthwhile in life sometimes takes a little more out of each of us than we're ready or willing to do at the time. The short-term sacrifices often lead to long-term rewards. Just keep that in mind, because sometimes when it's right in front of you, it's really hard. But the fact that math was my short-term sacrifice that led me to my engineering education, that led me to my home on the beach, and travel to all these places that I never thought I would ever get to. And of course, there's a few other places on my bucket list that I hope to get to one day, including Antarctica. That's the only continent I haven't been to. However, I just want you to know, the home on the beach, the trips and travel, that's all really nice. But what's really important is that I have my health, I have my education, I have peace of mind every day, I have tranquility. And even more important is that I am capable to use my education and my good fortune and share it to make life better for my family and people around the world. So, whenever anyone tells you you can't do something, or that you're aiming too high, or that you don't belong in STEM, I want you to remember today, and I want you to know that you don't have to experience my improbable journey. You're actually going to have a quite possible journey in STEM, all of you, because of you being here today. So with that in mind, I want to thank you for your time today and sharing my story with me, and I am open to any questions you might have.